So we're going to get started with the state update portion of the program. And as Chris mentioned when he was speaking this morning, in the past we did this a little bit differently where we actually opened it up and had time for each individual state to come up and give a regulatory and educational update on activities in the state over the past year. And it was somewhat successful in that some information was conveyed, but I think a lot of it got lost because it wasn't provided in any type of written form. There wasn't any type of information for people to follow up with. It was really abridged, and you only had 2 minutes, which is not enough time to really get into any detail about what's going on. And so, based on your responses to the evaluation and feedback that we received, we learned very quickly that that wasn't necessarily the best approach, but it was still an important thing to try to convey state-specific activities to our entire network. And so we're taking a slightly different approach this year, which is not perfect, but it is certainly something that we hope we can improve on in the future and build on, because I think it's a really great opportunity to highlight and to share the information that all of you are doing within the state to show the regional impact of our work. It's sort of really often considered on a state level or community level, and you're thinking about it from your own reporting perspective or the information that you need to provide to your funders, but we don't look at it collectively as a whole and think, what have we done all across the region, and really realize how much work is being done and take the opportunity to be appreciative and take the moment to recognize those accomplishments. And so that's what this state summary report strives to do, and what we've started to outline here. And it's certainly something that we hope to build on in the future and improve as we move forward. But this is where we are this year. So within your proceedings booklet, there is a state summary report, which comes after the agendas. And what you'll see here is the goal of this report is twofold. As I mentioned, is to articulate projects underway in each state so you can follow up with people after the conference and share ideas, lessons learned, and form new collaborative efforts. And then also to take a moment to recognize the work that all of you are doing every day in and around food safety, education, outreach, and appreciate those accomplishments from the last year. So first, I need to thank all of you for actually sending me this information. I know it's a pain to pull this together and provide it to me, and I apologize if any of it got a little bit messed up in translation into the report. Please let me know if I should make some corrections, because we will put this on our website, and we're happy to fix any errors that we might have. And I would also like to thank Sarah Ticknook from the UVM media team, who's here. Where's Sarah? Who helped, thank you, Sarah, very much, with layout and vision for the graphical expertise in coordinating this report. So thanks to all of you very much for putting this together. So the format of this presentation is I'm going to walk through each state alphabetically, and I think they're actually in correct alphabetical order as opposed to last year when I had them in the wrong order, so I apologize for that from last year. But what I'll do is just highlight a few specific bullets that were articulated in your state summary reports, and the remainder of the information is highlighted below in the report. And so you can gather more information by reading and following up with people. But I would like to, as I mentioned, take time to recognize the work that people are doing and also put faces with names and states. And so after I walk through each state, I hope you'll work with me on this. And as I finish, I would love for those from that state to stand up to be recognized so that people can see who you are and where you're from. So thanks for engaging with me on this. So to start, we'll go to Connecticut. And in Connecticut, the university took the lead to organize and present on a half-day informational program for retail, food service, and restaurant produce buyers regarding the implementation of the produce safety rule. They collaborated with Massachusetts and Rhode Island on this, involving both regulatory and extension personnel. And they are also finding that while the majority of Those who are attending the PSA course are exempt growers. They have learned that the motivation and reasons for growers receiving food safety education are beyond just mandated elements of the rule, and so are continuing to see high numbers at their produce safety grower trainings. So will those from Connecticut please stand up? And I see Diane here. Anybody from there, over there? Thank you. And we can just give a quick. Great, thank you. So in Delaware, the university is working with growers who are developing new indoor growing facility in converted poultry houses. And these growers are incorporating recommended alterations and sanitation procedures to limit food safety risks. And the University of Delaware received FDA funding for a commissioned study to look at the prevalence and levels of salmonella in poultry litter, and E. coli 0157H7, and STEC in cattle manure in the East. And this work is helping to inform the BSAO review that's currently underway by the Food and Drug Administration. So can those from Connecticut please stand? I'm sorry, Delaware. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you for keeping me honest. You're all following Chris's rules of helping to facilitate meetings, so thank you. Okay, in Maine. They've been repositioning their FSMA approach and are very excited to roll out collaborative partnering around the state. They are actively working to engage with other groups in the diverse and remote geographies of the state, and they think that it's going to make a big difference in establishing the trust and relationships they want to have between the Department of Agriculture and their produce growers. As of October of this year, they began to actively network with 13 different groups in coordination to provide informational sessions and help distribute educational and outreach materials and messaging. And for PCQI, Preventive Controls Qualified Individual Courses, the University of Maine finds that more than 87% of their attendees plan to start a PC plan within 6 months of participating. And after follow-up, they find that 60% have started a PC plan, with 43% having completed that plan. So will those from Maine please stand up? Thank you. Great, thanks. In Maryland, the Department of Ag developed a note-taking sheet to assist growers with determining the areas that are already compliant and those that need some work. And they are in the process of building a GIS resource for water testing labs in Maryland. And the university, for basic gap research workshops that they've held, they administered a knowledge pre-post test and found that 87% of participants performed better on the post test. For their SARE grants, farmers were surveyed at training and then 6 months later through a follow-up, and they found that 38 farmers reported changes in knowledge and 15 farmers reported change in adoption of food safety practices as a result of their programming. So will those from Maryland please rise? In Massachusetts, they're taking a unique approach to their farm registration. MDAR has created a master list by collecting data from internal and external sources. They created teams of 5 who are each assigned to different regions in the state, and then those folks go out and conduct verification organically by driving around, visiting farms, introducing themselves, giving the growers an overview of the produce safety rule and their state inspection and audit program. This info is then captured in their web-based platform. There's a lot of collaboration going on in Massachusetts. The University of Massachusetts collaborates extensively with other states to provide a wide variety of educational programming, both through collaborative grant opportunities and through the national curriculum courses. MDAR collaborates with buyers annually for an overview of the Massachusetts Produce Safety Program. They also collaborate with buy locals for education, outreach, and support and delivery of technical assistance and grower-buyer inquiries. Can the folks from Massachusetts stand up? On to New Hampshire. New Hampshire has documented behavior change as a result of many different programming efforts that they've got going on. For some examples, farmers wrote plans and began implementation of FSMA practices, including training workers, testing water, using results to guide management, incorporating new cleaning practices for machines and equipment and food contact surfaces, utilizing sanitizers or modifying how they are used, adopting new record-keeping practices to document adherence to the rules. And in New Hampshire, outreach efforts, as the program has recently shifted to the Department of Agriculture, has been extensive, and they have now a new website which has been updated and now offers an online on-farm readiness review request form for those farmers needing or wanting an OFRR visit, along with links to the FSMA Produce Safety Rule and other related PSR topics. New Hampshire farm inventory has been updated, and future outreach efforts to add to the inventory will include a farmer's survey, regional twilight farm meetings during the growing season, and produce safety program presentation at commodity organizational meetings. Will those from New Hampshire stand up? So from New Jersey, Rutgers served as one of the creators of the On-Farm Readiness Review Toolkit, and so the process has really been emphasized across the state. An initial OFRR training was conducted in Princeton to regulators from across the country. It was followed up with mock OFRRs, and the state had a goal of completing 75 reviews this growing season, which they have exceeded. In pre-post evaluations that were used to measure the knowledge gain of participants after taking the one-day PSA course, they showed knowledge gain. And they also are administering some follow-up surveys that were sent out at the end of 2018 to determine how growers are using the information that they gained at the one-day grower training and how much they learned. And responses to those look-back surveys will be analyzed this spring. So will those from New Jersey stand up? In New York, outreach around preventive controls has been extensive. 1,104 manufacturers have been given a list of informational resources associated with FSMA regulations. And currently, the Division of Food Safety is in the process of updating their inspectional program to be able to incorporate both PC and the produce safety inspectional data. Will those from New York please stand up? Thank you. In Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture created an OFRR toolbox with separate grant funding, and they hand out the following items to farmers who have requested an on-farm readiness review. So in their toolbox, they have a plastic pocket expanding file, a flash drive, paper and office supplies, portable storage clipboard, field toilet signs, hand washing signs, toilet paper signs, the GAPS worker training DVD, and first aid kits. And in produce safety, through grants from the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture, Penn State has been able to reduce the training registration fee to $20, thus resulting in approximately a $36,000 reduction in registration fees placed on Pennsylvania produce growers. And additionally, 2 FSMA produce safety trainings were offered exclusively to 60 Amish growers at no cost, which was a $9,000 reduction. And this adds up to $45,000 in savings to Pennsylvania growers. So will those in Pennsylvania please stand up? 4 Amish trainings. Great, and on to Rhode Island. The University of Rhode Island extends FSMA research and education in the state through several different grant opportunities, including an AFRI grant titled Defining and Overcoming Economic Factors Hindering Adoption of Food Safety Practices by Small and Medium-Sized Farms in the New England region. And as part of this, a needs assessment for growers was implemented in the New England states, and data was published in a peer review journal article. And if anybody was reading the list, you saw Lori Povarnik's name listed, and that's one of those outcomes from this AFRI grant that Chris showed earlier in the needs assessment slide. And the produce safety program is currently in the process of developing RAC cards, which are designated for farm staff, a qualified exemption calculator, on-farm food safety signage, and multilingual resources. Will those from Rhode Island stand up? Great, thank you. In Vermont, the Produce Safety Improvement Grant Program, which is through the Agency of Agriculture, which helps Vermont produce growers implement on-farm food safety practices, transition to compliance with the FSMA PSR, and meet market demands for on-farm food safety. This past year, 9 Vermont produce farms were awarded a grant totaling the amount of $74,000. And the Vermont Produce Program received a specialty crop block grant to help Vermont produce growers prepare water testing requirements and/or meet the state's voluntary produce safety program, NECAFS. The project scope includes ag water sampling of surface and groundwater on 4 Vermont farms, development of educational resources on how to take a water sample and prepare it for delivery or shipment, and increased staff technical knowledge on sampling to better assist growers in the area. So far, 21 samples have been taken from 4 different farms and delivered to 5 different labs. Can those from Vermont please stand up? And then lastly, West Virginia. West Virginia University has leveraged special projects grant funding that they received through NECAFS into an AFRI grant titled Improving Manufacturing Methods for Production of New Smoky Dried Apple Snack and Promoting Small-Scale Fruit Drying Businesses to process unsold apples in West Virginia. And 2 peer-reviewed research papers were also published as part of that special projects grant funding. And as a result of many forms of outreach, the West Virginia Department of Ag is seeing an increase in new farmers passing audits, which they have been able to connect to the emphasis they've placed on outreach around the state about the produce safety rule. So can those from West Virginia please stand up? Great, so what does this all mean? And to pull it back together and sort of re-emphasize what Chris was presenting on this morning, NECAFS is a regional effort to consolidate food safety, outreach, and education in a collaborative and consistent manner through strong network facilitation, peer review, and consensus-driven curricula and resource sharing. The project's overall objective is to build a regional network infrastructure that supports and complements a regional food safety system that increases the understanding and adoption and establishment of food safety standards, guidance, and protocols for those affected by FSMA. The NECAFS network leverages the collective expertise of all of you, university, regulatory, community-based organization, industry, and federal partners to provide comprehensive information and educational events on topics related to FSMA regulations. We have worked to connect regulatory development and compliance requirements with science-based research and educational programs through cooperative activities between the NECAFS network. This work was affirmed last year through evaluation collected at the 2018 annual conference and meeting, when you reported that the NECAFS activities around sharing of resources and information has led to successful networking and communication across this network. One of you said that networking is gold, while another said it's the biggest thing that NECAFS provides. Another attendee reported that these activities have given him ideas on how to improve his program, to branch out to other people, and get great insight on what has and hasn't been working. You reported that the information learned by participating in NECAFS activities has make you more effective and informed educators, giving you an improved ability to answer questions and pass along education to your growers and processors. Additionally, having a network comprised of both education and regulation allows you to hear and learn from one another. So, if we take a step back, we often think about our work individually, on the community and state level, reporting numbers and impact statements. However, we are all part of this larger regional effort, participating throughout the year in webinars, work groups, and use of the clearinghouse. And we are here together for the next 2 days at the annual conference and meeting in order to work collectively on several areas of identified key challenges or topics in order to better inform our outreach, education, and implementation efforts around the produce safety rule and preventive controls when we return home to our individual states and community. NECAFS looks forward to continually building its network and helping to facilitate the collaboration, communication, and sharing of ideas. Thanks to all of you for forming this network of expertise and allowing our entire region to learn from each other so that all of your individual efforts at the state level can best serve our region's producers and processors. So thank you for all the work that you do, for providing this information, and hopefully this will give you a broader understanding of the work that your neighbors are doing and ideas on how we can continue to enhance our programming across the Northeast region. So thank you very much.